Hey everybody, Jim Colby here. Today we're going to talk about how you can do your own guide wraps. All right, before we get started, we've already got our guide spacing done. We know where our guides are going. We've prepped our guide feet, and we're going to start doing our guide wraps. So I have my pull through ready. I have a burnishing tool. I have a pair of scissors or a razor blade. And that's all I need to get started. So I'm going to take my white thread. I'm going to use white, so it's going to be a little bit easier for you to see. Now, I like to start my guide wraps just in front of the guide foot. You don't need to start way out here and do long guide wraps. I like to start them about 1/8 of an inch or so in front of the guide foot. So what I'm going to do is make one loop around. Make sure you give yourself plenty of tag end, okay? So that looks pretty good to me, all right? So now what I want to do is I rotate the blank to the opposite side. Now, one of the most important parts is a good locking wrap. So what I'm going to do is I have my tag end is laying next to my main thread wrap, okay? All I'm going to do is take that main thread wrap, put it over the top of my tag end, and what's easier to do is take that tag end and wrap it around the blank, and you can actually secure it with a piece of tape. Now all we're going to do is rotate the blank. Now as you can see, that thread is now locked. So after I've got 2 or 3 wraps, I'm going to use my burnishing tool and I'm going to straighten up my wrap. So I want my starting point to be nice and straight. You don't want to have crooked wraps right from the beginning, okay? So I straightened that up, use my burnishing tool. Now I've got a good starting point. The next thing that I look at is the angle of my thread carriage. So I have just a little bit of an angle. So the thread is pulling back into my wrap and it keeps everything nice and tight as I wrap up the guide. So I've already hit the guide foot. I'm going to keep turning the blank. And because I've prepped that guide foot, it's climbing up it nicely, okay? Now I've got a few gaps in there that I'm seeing already, and I want to burnish down the guide foot. And you can take your nail and hold that outside of the wrap just to make sure that you don't move it. Now I'm going to get 5 or 10 wraps going. Then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut that tag end off. Now if you notice, this is a spinning guide. So on our rods when we build them, we have a clean side and a dirty side. The clean side is generally the side that you're going to see as you're fishing the rod. Generally, we don't want to put any of our tie-offs and things like that on the top where we're going to see maybe a bump underneath the thread wrap. Also, on the spinning guide or on a spinning rod, you don't want to put your tag or your tag ends along the side of the foot because this is actually going to create a little bit of a channel. So I put my tag ends right down the side of the blank. It keeps them out of the way. You can't see them as you fish it. It makes a nice clean look. So I'm just going to trim that off nice and short and continue with my wraps. I'm just going to keep packing as I go. Keeps your wraps nice and tight. And if you go over the top, so you'll notice here, I'll let the thread jump over the top here in a moment. If your thread jumps over, you want to stop, back up a little bit, and then make sure your thread is laying next to one another. Now I'm wrapped up the guide foot. I can go ahead and remove my tape that was holding the guide and continue wrapping. And as I move up the guide, I'm going to want to move my thread carriage just a little bit, maintaining just a little bit of an angle. It keeps it nice and tight, reduces the amount that you have to pack. And see how my thread just jumped over there? So I want to back up just a little bit, make sure my thread wrap is on the outside, which created a little bit of a gap there for me. I'm just going to take my burnishing tool, go back, tighten all that up, readjust my thread carriage a little bit because I had too much of an angle. Now, as I get up towards the end of the guide foot where I want to start finishing my wrap, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put my pull off string, right? Jumped over a little bit on me. Just going to go back and fix that. Got a little bit of a gap in there. Now, I want to make sure that I have at least 5 wraps over my pull string. That way, when I pull that tag end through, I've got a nice secure locking point, okay? For your pull string, I use just braid, like 10 or 15 pound braid. Works really well. I usually put a little bead on the end. It makes it easier to find on the bench. Also, high vis braid works well. Makes it a little bit easier to find. All right, so now I'm at the point where I want to finish. So I'm gonna put my index finger, hold that wrap, pull myself a little bit of slack, cut my line, stick it through the loop. Now I'm gonna hold tension. Just pull your pull through, and at this point it's locked, all right? So what I like to do is take my fingernail, hold that down, and pull it through, all right? Now at this point, you can cinch it up a little bit, make sure it's tight, burnish all your edges, makes for a nice clean wrap. Now we have to get rid of this tag end. So what I'm gonna do, I've got nice clean edges. I'm gonna take my razor blade, and I'm actually gonna create a little bit of a gap. I'm gonna pull my tag end in the direction that I was wrapping, which creates a little bit of a gap. I'm gonna lay my razor blade on top of the threads. I don't wanna cut into the thread, but I'm gonna pull the tag end right into my razor blade and cuts it off nice, and it falls into that crack. You can take your fingernail or your burnishing tool, straighten up your edges.